everyone. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. We have a ton of information that we are going to share this morning, and I want to make sure that you don't miss any of it. So let me just put my Facebook video on off so you don't get that feedback. Okay, so if you can hear me okay, just let me know in the chat box. Give me a thumbs up or give me an indication, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is probably one of our most popular webinars, especially right now. 3 months ago, when we received the stay-at-home order and had to close the studio, one of the things that I wanted to really convey to our current clients is to continue creating. And there are ways to do that without an actual recording studio. Hi, Jackie. I'm glad that you're here. So today we're going to be talking about everything from, hi, Edna. Thanks for the thumbs up. We're going to be talking about the equipment you need. We do have an online course that goes more in detail about everything that I'm going to talk about. So I'll talk about that course a little later, but that course will be more of a step-by-step guide addition to what I'm going to talk about today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And see where my hold on, bear with me, getting my PowerPoint up here. Okay. There we go. Like my son says, there you go. Okay. So if everyone can see my screen, if you can give me a thumbs up. I like to share this morning. Let me see here. Let me give my thumbs up here. And I think we are set to go. I just want to verify here. Okay. So how to podcast from home. If you don't know me, my name is Robin Kinney, and me, along with my partner, launched Motor City Woman Studios over 5 years ago now, and I can't believe it's been that long. But we launched because we saw a gap in the market. There weren't a lot of recording studios that were even owned and managed by women. But, you know, our premise was to really amplify the voices of women. So what does that mean, and what does that actually look like? That means that we are intentional with the organizations, the initiatives that we support. For example, we lead the Detroit chapter for an organization called Sound Girls. Sound Girls is based out of Los Angeles, and it really concentrates on increasing the number of women and girls in audio engineering. And I found just in these past few years in working in this industry that audio engineering is left out of the STEM conversation in a lot of ways. And I don't see the pipeline for audio engineering that I see in other STEM related. So with Sound Girls, we're able to do workshops. We're able to, you know, partner with organizations so that we can create that pipeline of women and girls who are interested in audio, whether it's working in a studio and making music, but also working in a live event field. If you follow us on Instagram, last week we featured someone who's an audio engineer for NASA. Like, how interesting is that? And actually, I want to say her name because it was such her position is just so interesting, and she is so interesting. Alexandria Perriman. So those types of positions, we want to make sure that, you know, women and girls have access to it. So we've done workshops. We We do live events, like in the upper left-hand corner. You see me doing an interview at an award show down at the Charles H. Wright Museum with the incomparable Jessica Care Moore. So let's dig into the meat and potatoes of why you're here. I know we're all busy, so I want to get right to it. Why should you podcast? Well, it's sheer numbers. Right now, as you can see on the screen, 46 million, the numbers are rising of people who listen to podcasts on a regular basis. Of course, since I'm in this industry, I listen to podcasts all the time for different reasons, especially over the last 3 months. I've been listening to podcasts to laugh, to kind of get away, to educate myself. So all of those different components can be built into a podcast, and I am going to show you how. So there's different types of podcasts, and the type that you should select is based on what your goal is. For example, do you want to be a thought leader? So do you want to position yourself as an expert in a certain industry? So you may be a monologue type of podcast where it's just you talking and sharing your expertise. Or you have podcasts that are interview based. And that's probably the majority of podcasts, a slight majority of podcasts right now, where you're sitting down and you talk to someone about a specific topic and, it aligns with your overall theme of your podcast. But podcasts can be anything that you want them to be, which I think is kind of cool. So looking at this screen, starting in the upper left-hand corner, this is a picture that I actually took at the auto show last year. And it's Randy Zuckerberg, who has a show on Sirius XM. And she was sitting down with Cheryl Connolly, a manager at Ford Motor Company, and they were talking about futuring and trends. So I thought it was really cool that Ford had this whole audio setup in their space at the auto show. So what I took from this is you can podcast anywhere. We're now seeing a ton of live events where people, you may podcast in a studio or at your home on a regular basis, but from time to time, you may set up at a coffee shop, or you may set up at a local concert venue and conduct a live podcast recording. So it shakes things up a bit, and it gives you an opportunity and your audience an opportunity to interact with you. Now, next to them, you have Two Dope Queens. Two Dope Queens was important for several reasons. A, they really broke the color barrier when it came to Black women being a top-rated podcast when they came out. And even now, the majority of the top podcasts on Apple are hosted by white men. So Two Dope Queens came out and they just kicked the door in. What I love most about Two Dope Queens is that they did it in their authentic voice. So they did live events. And for example, this graphic is from a live event that they did at the Apollo in Harlem. And it was recorded by HBO and then streamed on HBO. So that goes into the monetization of podcasts, which I'll talk about later. But you see at the bottom, there's different types of podcasts based on what your interest is and what your end goal is. So I would say that is the first kind of step one is, what do you want to accomplish with this podcast? Why are you doing this podcast? Who are you trying to reach? So you will see at the bottom, there are lots of different branded podcasts, meaning that they're produced by a corporation for a specific reason. For example, Beaumont Hospital had a podcast. You see down here, Morgan Stanley has a podcast. eBay has a podcast. Facebook has a podcast. So having a podcast gives you your own platform to talk about what you want to talk about. And it's an excellent opportunity because right now there aren't any rules For example, in radio, you have to abide by FCC rules. There's certain things you can't say, there's certain things you can't do. But with podcasts, you sit down, you talk for as long as you want to talk. A podcast can be as long or as short as you want. Talk to whomever you want to talk about. And I'll show you some of the tools that you're going to need. Okay. So what exactly do I need to podcast? After you've gone through what your intention is. So I'll say that's first. You want to set your intention. What do I want to talk about? Who do I want to reach? Why is this important? These are basically the elements that you're going to need. The microphone, of course, recording and editing equipment, or software rather, a hosting platform, cover art, a Gmail address, and PodSafe music. And don't worry, I'm about to go through all of these. Okay, so let's unpack these tools here. Starting in the upper right corner, you'll see I put a few microphones here. And what's important about, hold on, I'm just updating this. What's important about these microphones is that they can be a USB enabled microphone, meaning they just plug right into your laptop, or they can be an XLR. So, and that may go into a mixer, but we're talking about what you need to launch a podcast from home right now. These screen grabs of the microphones were from Amazon. Now, I have been told that when the shutdown started, everyone decided they wanted to launch a podcast. So a lot of microphones may not be available anymore. So, but you can still search, there's some basic microphones in different price points that you can find to give you the best sound. But you say, hey, Robin, I can't find a microphone and this isn't working anymore. Let's go over to a headphone mic combo, or like I'm using right now, Apple earbuds. If you're just trying to get started, you don't have any money to really invest in it right now, or you just want to see how is it going before you invest some money, use some Apple earbuds or use something that is right on your mobile device. For example, every mobile device comes with some sort of audio recorder, okay? So you can even use an audio recorder, send those to your email, edit them, and boom, you have a podcast, okay? Now, after you've recorded everything, you have to think about, how am I going to get it into my computer? And also, how am I going to edit it? So luckily, there are a ton of tools for this category. And I'm going to talk about the easiest one, because again, we're talking about how do I launch today from home? So the industry standard is audio, Adobe Audition, Logic Pro, things of that nature. But there's two that are absolutely free. I'm going to tell you what those tools are. GarageBand for Mac users and Audacity for PC users. You can go on and download that software today, right now, and that is where you can edit your podcast. Free, simple to use, a way to get it done right now. Okay. So the next element is a hosting site. So what is a hosting site? A hosting site is basically where your audio files are stored. And it's important because the hosting site creates your RSS feed. And your RSS feed is what is sent to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So you want to use a hosting site that has the space that you need. Meaning, if you're going to be releasing an episode every day, you're going to need a lot of space. If you have a longer length of time that you need in a storage, then you're going to need more space. But again, we're talking about, how do I get started today from home? You can look into all these different hosting sites And if you're still not sure whether this is something you're going to do long term or not, and you don't want to invest a lot of money into it, look at software like SoundCloud. SoundCloud is something where you can upload the audio. It will create your RSS feed, and then you can use that RSS feed to set up all the various podcast platforms that you're going to need. Okay. So I'm going to pause here because I know I've shared a ton of information and I want to make sure I'm not going too fast. So if you have any questions, I'm just going to make sure I look down at the chat here. If you have any questions, put them down there in the comment box right now. Anything that you've heard, anything you're unsure of, anything you want me to go more in detail, make sure you can put it in the comments. And I'm just going to take a brief pause here, have a sip of water. Okay, we got a thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. I'm going to keep going then. Okay. So there's different ways when it comes to marketing your podcast. And I always suggest people to start marketing even before you have that first episode done, because you want to drum up interest and you want people to be excited that your podcast is on its way. But also is another great way to attract guests. If you're a podcast where you're going to be interviewing people, of course you want dynamic guests. So as you start sharing your podcast, people may ask, hey, that seems like something that I'd like to contribute to. Are you accepting guests? Oh, we have a question from Stephanie. 1 or 2 mics to start. Okay, so Stephanie, is it just you or do you have a co-host? Is there a reason why you would need 2 mics? Is my question. Because I am not sure. But if it's just you talking, then 1 mic, because you'll find out what works for you. Everyone's tone is different. Some people love one type of mic, other people hate it. So I would start off with a mic that fits within your price point that you can use, and then go from there. Now, Etna, GarageBand is free for what platform computer? GarageBand is free for Macs. GarageBand is compatible with Macs, and Audacity is compatible for PC users. Okay, and Stephanie says, it's just me for interviews. Then 1 microphone. If you're doing interviews, it's interview based and you're the only host, just have 1 microphone for yourself. Make sure that it's comfortable for you. What's most important always, of course, with a podcast is making sure that the sound is good. Of course, when you just get started and maybe you don't want to invest that much money at the forefront, you can start off with like earbuds or something you can plug right into your laptop. And then as you grow, you become more sophisticated. You may want to then invest in a separate microphone. But, I've seen people who record a podcast with just like a kind of like a gamer headset, and it has like a mic attachment. And it may not look the coolest. It may not be that Instagrammable, but it works and the sound is very good. Okay, so how do you spread the news for your podcast? A lot of different ways, actually, but it goes back to what your intention is and knowing your audience. Your audience may be on Facebook. If so, sweet. Look through Facebook groups by searching through keywords to see, where's a group that would appreciate this type of podcast, or is there a Facebook group existing that aligns with the theme of my podcast? Digital media outlets. One thing about content right now is that everything's gone digital, of course. However, they're always looking for content. They need stories. So pitch yourself. One of my taglines is shoot your shot. If they never get a response from them, okay, but you may get a response. So pitching yourself to digital media outlets, again, that are aligned with the theme of your podcast. That's going to increase the likelihood that they're interested. So you just don't want to spam everyone and waste your time. But look for digital media outlets, digital magazines, websites, blogs. Look on Pinterest, anything that's aligned with the theme, the core mission of your podcast. And then just send them like a one sheet. This is what my podcast is about. This is who I am. We're getting ready to launch, and I'd love for you to cover it. So that is very important. And then reaching out to potential guests. Okay. We're actually working on a few projects, and right now, with everyone, for the most part, still at home, the likelihood of you getting a response has increased dramatically. So if there's someone who, you've been following online, someone who you've read about, if they do have an online presence or if they have an email address, shoot your shot, send them an email, send them a DM and say, this is what my podcast is about. I would love to get on your calendar to see if I can interview you. And you just never know. And the great thing about having guests is then they're sharing that they're going to be on your podcast. So you're able to get the benefit of their audience tuning in and your audience. So it's really a win-win. Okay. Let's see. There you go. Okay. Next, I talked about digital media outlets that speak to your topic. So this is where some work comes into play. You want to start to build a list of digital media outlets that are aligned with your core mission for your podcast, because not only are you going to reach out to them when you first launch, but you want that ongoing presence, that advertising presence, and you just never know. You may be able to collaborate with one another, or they may be able to, become a long-term sponsor. You never know. And one thing that I think a lot of podcasters overlook is collecting email addresses. People still open emails. Emails are still very important, because when someone subscribes to your email, they're essentially saying that, yes, I want to hear from you. And once you have that yes, that gives you an opportunity to really share more information than just a general social media graphic, for example. Okay. And just so you know, a way to do that is, I've seen some podcasters who they'll set up like a one-page website for their podcast, specifically for their podcast, where they're just collecting email addresses. And then when they have a new episode, that's a way for them to advertise the podcast. Okay. So now I wanted to talk about a course that we've put together. For the last few minutes, we've talked about the equipment you need, some marketing strategies to get it all together. Well, we've put together a course that really takes the guesswork out for you. And we were really excited about it, because we saw all these people who wanted to podcast and had all these questions. And we were able to not only make just a course, but it's a video-based course. And I think that's what I like most about it, is that it goes through every component more in detail of what I just talked about. Finding your why, putting all of the pieces together, growing your audience, repurposing content, how to leverage your podcast. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, authors, experts in their field who want to podcast, and they're not sure how to structure it so that it's feeding back into their business. So there's a way to do that. And then, of course, monetization strategies. How do I make money off of this podcast? So the course is really step by step, and it features videos that you can watch. It's totally on demand, and you can look through and say, okay, you can pause it, come back to it. But what I think I like most about it is that it has these guides and worksheets and templates and homework, you know, where you can look through and say, okay, you can print off one of the templates, for example. Here's a worksheet that you can use to go over what is the purpose of my website and really get everything that you have in your head down on paper, because that's really going to help you. So that's the customized guide to launching your podcast. And I said in 30 days. Yes, it is possible. And then feeling the confidence. And I think that's what a lot of people do is, you know, you've Googled and Googled and Googled, and sometimes you can have information overload and be stuck and you get that analysis paralysis. Well, the course that we've put together is really going to help you go through that. And I put here, don't watch another YouTube tutorial or buy another gadget before taking this course, because we've really done all of the work for you. So, of course, there's a cost to it, because it does save you so much time and probably money that you were going to waste if there wasn't for this course. Right now, you know, if you were to kind of do it yourself, where you're hiring a consultant, purchasing the wrong equipment, or course irrelevant equipment, all this money can add up. Okay. And of course, your time. You don't want to waste your time with trying to figure everything out yourself. And I know there's a lot of YouTube university folks, but for someone who is like, look, I'm just trying to get this figured out so I can move on with my life like I am, then you just want to go to a course that has been specifically designed for the non-techie person to launch a podcast. And that's what this course is all about. So the value of all of this is easily almost $1,000 with everything that we've put together. But drum roll, please. You can now enroll for only $49 and get lifetime access to it. I've been working with podcasters for over 5 years now. So this is something that I'm really passionate about. This is not just a business for me. And especially right now, everyone's voice is so important, and you never know who you're going to impact, and you never know who is waiting for what you need to say. So we put all of this together for $49, and you get lifetime access to it, which is something that we typically don't do. So how do you get access to it? Okay, so you can go to our website, which is just simply motorcitywoman.com. That's our email address, hello@motorcitywoman.com. And right at the very top of the website, you'll see a button. It just says enroll in our e-course, and it's on demand. So, you know, let's say you start and then you can stop, you can come back to it. You can email us with questions, but we put everything in one place. We put the template in one place. We put your outlines in one place. And then, of course, you have access to me, where if you do get stuck for some reason and you're just not sure, hey, that's what we're here for, give us a holler. So you have immediate access right now from motorcitywoman.com, and it takes you right to the course. Let's see. Okay, so I just want to summarize everything that we've talked about today. It all starts with your why. You know, I think the best podcasts have a purpose, and that's why we titled the course Podcast with Purpose. Because once you know what your purpose is, then you're able to know your audience, and you're really able to develop it. So you're not just throwing out, you know, different marketing strategies, but once you know your audience, you know where they are. So your audience may be at local meetups. Your audience may be in a specialized Facebook group. So it just streamlines everything when you know your why. So then you can develop it into the type of podcast that you want and really leverage that podcast to do what you want it to do. So I'm going to stop there because I want to take your questions. Okay, I'm back. I want to take your questions, and actually I am going to put the link to the course right now. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put the link to the course right here in the chat. There. Okay. Okay. Hi, Rachel. So we've gone over launching a podcast from home. And a quick overview is first starting with what is your why? Who do I want to reach? And why is what I'm saying important? And then from there, really mapping out the types of shows, whether it's going to be a monologue. And a monologue is just you talking into the microphone. There's no other voices. Tamara, what is interviews? I don't know what that means. IB to reviews? I'm not sure. Tamara, can you go more into detail? The monologue is just you talking. So it's a great way to position yourself as an expert because you're just sharing content, you're sharing your expertise or even your experiences. Okay, so maybe you're someone who has traveled and your podcast is all about traveling. You're someone who loves to bake and your podcast is all about baking. So it can really be whatever you want it to be, believe me. Or your podcast may be interview based, where you're sitting down and you're asking someone a question. They respond, you ask a question, but it's all around a theme. So, okay, Stephanie, thanks. Hi, Rachel. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. Thanks for joining in. Other types of podcasts that I didn't touch on as much is podcasts like what we call like crime stories, true life, investigative crimes, investigative stories, documentary style. They're all over the place. Again, a podcast can be anything that you want it to be. Okay, so for everyone who's watching, do you have a podcast idea in mind? If so, put it in the chat. And let me know, like, why are you here? What type of podcast are you interested in starting? Or is there a podcast that you really like that you would like to mimic? Or just something that really stands out to you? Because I know we all podcast for a different reason. For some people, it's therapeutic. For some people, they really want to share their expertise. They want to help someone. And I think that's the core of a lot of podcasts. They really want to help someone. Edna, what was the number 5 on the slide? Hold on, I'm going to go back to it. Utilize the tools to make podcasting work for you, Edna. Number 5 was utilize the tools. So the basic tools, don't think you need to have this elaborate setup in order to podcast. If you have a mobile device, which most of us have, you can just use a recorder from here and then email it to yourself and use that free software that I shared, like Audacity or GarageBand, to edit it, and then make all the connections as I shared. But the course itself goes over all of those different types of things. And if you just scroll up, I put them in the chat where we've really gone more into detail. And I believe it's 10 videos where I'm breaking everything down in the videos, but then giving you homework and, and holding you accountable for, okay, this is what you need in order to get to the next step. Okay, Ashley, I just started my podcast and I chose to do it to share my expertise and also bring on guests to share their insight and expertise as well. That's awesome, Ashley. And that's really what podcasting is all about. It's a great way to leverage it so that you're sharing your expertise, but you're also able to benefit from it. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, people have a way to kind of listen to that expertise and then say, hey, I think I want to work with her. And then you're able to get a sale from it. Ashley, what's the name of your podcast? I love to check it out. Tamara, yes, interested in doing a virtual with a group of other people. Awesome. When the stay-at-home order started a few months ago, of course, we saw a lot of people that was starting to record via virtual. You have like Zoom, and you have a lot of virtual software that can help you to really talk to anyone on the globe. As long as they have a Wi-Fi signal, you can actually produce a podcast with them. So Tamara, I think that's a great idea. So you should check out our course because we really go into detail about it. And then another great resource for you, Tamara, is on our YouTube channel. We have these, what we call Motor City Woman Minutes. And one of them, we talked about how to use video conferencing software like a Zoom to record a podcast. So you want to check that out. Rachel, okay, I will have to think about one. As a retailer in these COVID times, we have had to pivot, and I will set up my website. Yep. Okay, yeah, let me know, Rachel. I love to support you. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are getting very creative right now. And it's really forcing us to get creative, which is what an entrepreneur is all about. We're all about shifting and making that pivot. And I'd love to see it, to be honest. I would love to witness how, there was a small business that started making hand sanitizer, when a couple months ago. So I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that say, hey, I need to do something different or really speak to my expertise, and a podcasting is a way to do that. So which is awesome. Okay, Ashley, the Intentional You podcast. Okay, I'm jotting that down so I could check it out. I love listening to podcasts. Of course, that's what I do. That's something that brings me joy. But even before I became a producer in a I would say recording studio owner, I've always had a love for talk radio. So growing up here in Detroit, I listened to Martha Jean the Queen. So some of you may or may not know who Martha Jean the Queen is. And if you're of a certain age like myself, Martha Jean the Queen was not only a talk radio show host, but she owned the studio, which was unheard of for a Black woman to do so. So growing up, I listened to her a lot. And, as I became an adult, I just noticed the lack of women who were hosting their own shows. And I noticed the lack of women who were behind the mic and mixing and mastering and engineering. So we really wanted to be intentional when we launched Motor City Woman Studios so that women had the opportunity and the skills and the resources in order to have shows on their own and really make their voices heard. Okay, Jackie, my idea is for a podcast that empowers women, also with some information on starting your own business. My question, I am thinking of doing a podcast with my friend. We wanted to take from our individual to houses. Okay, what is the best way to do this and keep up the quality? If we both have the quality mics, that should help, I am sure. Is it just similar to doing interviews with others? Any advice would be helpful. Oh, that's great, Jackie. Okay, so if you're at your home with your mic and your friend is at her home or his home with his mic. Okay, so it is definitely possible. It's really about making the connection. So you can use anything from like a video conferencing software Like check out Clean Feed. Clean Feed is really good. What I like about Clean Feed is that both of you can be at different locations and it'll feed into a joint recording session. And then you're able to download that session and then edit it. So check out Clean Feed. Of course, there's video conferencing software that you both can tap into from your respective homes, like a Zoom. But I've seen, to be honest, I've even seen some people who use like just regular like Google Meets or, anything where, the two people can come on at the same time. Any type of video conferencing software should really help you, Jackie. Again, if you want to make sure that the sound quality is good, just making sure that you not only have a microphone, but headphones. Okay. I found that people can have an awesome microphone, but if you don't have a headphone attachment to it, it may pick up a lot of room noise and it may throw off the sound quite a bit. So I would recommend some headphones as well. A lot of people overlook the headphone aspect, but even if you're in a quiet space, headphones are important because it's really going to help with the sound. So that's my advice. Yes, Tamara, Martha Jean. I know that's old school, but Martha Jean was like it for me growing up. And even after she passed, I would listen to old episodes of her, and I was able to find some old episodes on YouTube where you can hear her talking and you hear the intro. So it's pretty cool. Very nostalgic. Okay, Jack, I never thought of that. Perfect. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, everyone. I'm just going to see if there's any additional last questions. I've had fun hearing from everyone and hope everyone is well. But this is certainly a pivotal time to make your voice heard. And if nothing else, it's a way to get everything that's in your head out, which I think is very therapeutic. But it's also a way to share your voice with the world because you just never know who's waiting for what you have to share. Okay. Again, my name is Robin Kinney from Motor City Woman Studios. And if you're interested, I'm going to put the link to our course in the chat one last time because it's super quick and easy to really help you go through the process. Instead of stumbling and putting all these puzzle pieces together, we've done it step by step with 10 video tutorials along with all the guys' outlines that you're going to need. You have lifetime access and access to questions from me. So if there isn't anything else, let me put my email address in here. If you do have any other questions after we are gone, feel free to contact us or visit our website at motorcitywoman.com. Everyone, make it a great day. I see the sun is shining out there. I'm about to get out there, and it was great having you here. I've enjoyed connecting with everyone. I have a question from Tamara. Is it better to produce your own podcast virtual or otherwise, or to use a service to do this? It depends on your comfort level. We've seen people who, they have the time, they have the patience, and they have the skills to produce it themselves via a virtual platform, or they may outsource it. I'll give you an example. We have some clients who, just utilize us for editing. So they record it themselves and send it to us for editing. I have some clients who say, hey, I'm not trying to figure out podcasting. I'm not trying to do all of that work, that editing. I just want to come on, say what I have to say, and magically it jumps up and I'm on Apple and I'm on, Google Play and I'm on Spotify. So that's more of our full service clients. So it just depends on what your comfort level is and the time, and do you have the patience to really figure all those things out. So you can do it, if that's something that, you're interested in, but putting all those things together is not for everyone. So, it just depends. So yes, you can do it, or you can, utilize a service so you can really concentrate on it yourself. Okay. I'm going to do one last round of questions. Any other questions? Before I go on, I want to thank everyone for coming here and listening. If you were able to, get your questions answered, if you thought that this was a good use of your time, I love a thumbs up in the comments. That always lets me know that I am doing something that's worthwhile. Edna, with the different platforms that hold the podcast, do they own it or have a form of ownership of your podcast? That's a great question, Edna. It depends. It depends. So it depends on the podcast platform. Now, when you create your RSS feed, and you're creating your RSS feed in, let's say in SoundCloud, they don't have ownership to it. You do hold the copyright, but from there, when they share it with, Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify, they're just sharing it. So no type of ownership is transferred, but that's certainly something that you want to be aware of, because there's so many different podcast platforms right now. There's so many different hosting platforms right now that you want to read the fine print when it comes to ownership, and make sure that you're not, giving all of your content away. But typically, in my experience, this is my opinion, I've seen when people have a podcast, ownership isn't transferred unless like you're getting paid by, like, there's like a big podcast company, for example, or a media production company where they're hiring you to host a show, and then they may own the brand. But typically for like an independent podcaster, like most podcasters are, there's no type of transfer of ownership, but you want to make sure that, you have the copyright, and of course that you read the fine print. Okay, cool. So thanks, Tamara, for the thumbs up. Everyone have a great day. If you have any other questions, hello@motorcitywoman.com. And then, of course, you can always go to motorcitywoman.com for our tips and tools, resources, and to get registered for our course. Okay. Everyone have a great day. Bye.